is all about setting up the environment this week, right? So by the end of this week, you should have a Node.js server running locally on your machine and also running remotely on Heroku, right? You should have a MongoDB instance running locally on your machine and a remote database also running on MLab, okay? And you should have a GitHub client installed on your machine. If you have Mac, you should be all set. You might need to update your Xcode for command line, some of the command line tools. If you're Windows, then I have a couple of clients that you can install. Let's see. The databases don't have to have the same data locally or remotely. They're not connected at all. Right? The local database is for you to do development, local development. The remote one is when you deploy it and it's accessible remotely. So don't be confused if you're inserting data locally and it's not showing up remotely, right? Unless you write additional code to import data from the local database to the remote database, is not going to magically appear remotely. Yes? Okay. So let's go over it. Yeah, so by the end of this week, you'll have installed a GitHub client. You will have cloned my template. I have a template to get you started that has a very simple server, has a very simple database, just to get you started. So you're going to clone that from GitHub or fork it, whatever you prefer, and then you're going to have that locally in your machine. You're going to finish up your assignment, and then you're going to post it in a brand new repository, GitHub repository. Okay? You're going to invite myself and the TAs as collaborators to your repository. Right? If you don't do that, we won't be able to help you. Right? I mean, we'll be able to maybe clone and identify your problem, but then we won't be able to post a solution. Right? So if you make us collaborators, we'll be able to fix the problem for you and then post a solution right on GitHub. Yes? So make sure you invite myself and the TAs to GitHub. You'll also install Node.js. That's the server that we're going to be using throughout the semester. The first couple of weeks, we're only going to be using it to host our static content, right? To host our HTML, our CSS, our JavaScript, right? The third week, we're going to be starting to create web services, right? That's going to allow the browser to fetch data from the server, okay? And also make your data available to the rest of the world as a cloud service, right? Just like Netflix does it, just like IMDb does it, just like Yelp does, right? They all have these APIs, public APIs. You will do the same thing. You will be hosting your own API, right? In particular to your client application, okay? MongoDB, you're going to install MongoDB. There is a community edition. There is a community edition that you don't have to pay for. MongoDB kind of hides it from you, so you're going to have to poke around to find the community edition. Obviously, they want you to purchase their enterprise solution, but certainly there's the free version. Heroku, that's going to be the server, a remote server where you're going to be deploying this. WebStorm is the IDE that we're going to be using. I know that you might have a preference to other IDEs, but this is a very common IDE used in industry and very popular amongst JavaScript developers and web developers in general. So I suggest you learn this IDE. Also, a little bit to standardize and make us easier for us to help you, to support you. So Node.js. So you'll navigate to Node.js, and you'll download the latest, the current with the latest features, and install it locally on your machine. And what Node.js is just a JavaScript interpreter, right? It allows you to execute JavaScript on a desktop. Right? Typically, when you think about JavaScript, you think on code that executes on a browser. Right? So Node.js allows you to interpret and run that JavaScript, but on the server, on a machine, on a desktop. Right? Now they're fundamentally different. JavaScript running on a browser is fairly different than JavaScript running on a desktop. On a browser, you have buttons, you have a mouse, you have a window, you have a user interface. Running on a desktop, there's no user interface, right? There is no mouse, right? There is no window, no messages, no anything, right? It's all console. But it's JavaScript nevertheless, right? But things that you could do on the browser, you can't do on the server. Things that you can do in the server, you can't do on the browser, right? On a browser, you can manipulate the DOM, you can manipulate the user interface, you can interact with the user, but you don't have access to a database, you don't have access to a file system, you have limited network accessibility. On the server, on the desktop, you have full access to the server, full access to the database, full access to the file system. You have unrestricted network connectivity, right? But you don't have a user interface. Right? So they need to work together, and that's what we're going to be working this semester on how to work these things together. So you can install Node.js, download it, and install it. This will install a couple of executables. Two are of interest. One is the Node interpreter, right? You just type Node and then some JavaScript you want to run. And the other one is npm. npm is Node's package manager. So the two executables, once you install Node.js, is Node, which you can give it a hello.js. You can run some JavaScript right from the command line, just like you would say Java and then some executable, right? Some Java binary. And the other one is npm. npm is Node's package manager. This is similar to Maven, if you've done Java. What's the .NET one? What's the one for .NET that manages packages? NuGet? I forget. So this npm allows you to install libraries, right, and download them from the network, from a website, and installs it locally on your machine. We're going to be using that quite a bit. MongoDB. Download and install MongoDB. You'll need to create a local directory called /data/db. So off of your root, right? That's where MongoDB is going to save all the data files, right? And it won't start unless it finds that directory, right? It'll ask you where it is. Also, on a Mac, it would install inside of /user/local/mongo. That's a very common place to put it on a Mac. On a PC, it'll install it under program files. On a Mac, also on a PC, please add the bin directory to your path. Okay, so you can start MongoDB from anywhere, from the command line. If you do come to my office hours, make sure you've configured this before you come to me. Right? I like to be able to run MongoDB from the command line. I don't want to have to fetch it and search where it is installed. Make sure you have this configured. On a PC, same thing. You can set up your environment variables, right, and add it to your path. And from the command line, you just run mongod. MongoD is the daemon. It starts the server. It starts the Mongo database server. It'll say that it's listening at port 27017, and it's putting all its data under the /datadb. Right, so this is, and then it's waiting for a connection, waiting for us to connect. So there's two command lines that are useful. One is MongoD. That allows you to start the server. And the other command that is installed is Mongo. That's a client that allows you to connect to a database and start querying it and updating it and interacting with the database. Yes, it's a command line interpreter that allows you to communicate with the database. Everybody good? All right. Then make sure you have Git installed locally. Again, on a Mac, you should be okay. On a Windows, there's a couple of clients that you can install. Here's one, it's the preferred one. You can use that one. So I've provided for you a template project from you to get started, right? And it's located here at my GitHub account. So let me grab that. And it's right here. So you can either clone this or fork this if you want. And it's a bare bones web application, right? It's kind of like a hello world web application. It has a very small server JS. Most of this is not necessary. The only 3 lines of code that are needed is 1, 2, maybe 3. That's it. That allows you to create a server using JavaScript. Listening at a particular port number, and that's it. The other things are things you might need a little later. Then in public, that's the public directory where you can put all your static content, okay, as a very simple index page, right? That says just a couple of links that link to your local project directory, local assignment directory, and a test. We have here a little test for us to be able to test your database. Okay, so the TAs are gonna try and run this. They're gonna go to your remote server where you're hosting this, and they're gonna try and insert a couple of lines of some messages into your database and verify that you are connected to the database. Okay. Let's see. Then in the assignment directory, here's where you're gonna be doing your work. Okay, I got you started already with some very simple HTML files. In the index page, assignment page, that's it. Also a project, here's where you can do your project. There's nothing in it right now, just says project. Most people do it here, but you're welcome to use a separate GitHub if you prefer. If you prefer to host your project in a separate GitHub, that's fine. Okay. Go ahead. In the test directory, just leave this. Don't touch this right now. Okay, it's just for us to test your database. Right, so we're going to be able to navigate to your website and then test whether you're indeed connected to a database. All right. Okay. What else? Let's see. So here's a couple of steps to get you started. You can just do a git clone and then give this URL. This will download and copy this locally on your machine. You'll do npm install. Notice there's a package JSON here. See that? This package JSON, this is a Node.js's version of a POM file. Anyone know what a POM file is in Java? Yes? Okay. It basically describes your project, right? It describes any dependencies with libraries, right? So this one says that this particular project, this is the name, here's the author, says that it needs the following 3 libraries. It needs a body parser, Express, and Mongoose, right? So when you do an npm install, so npm is the package manager, Node package manager, it basically reads your package JSON and it downloads all the libraries that it needs. Okay, compiles those libraries and installs them locally on your machine. Yes, right? This JSON file is very important because throughout the semester you're going to be adding new dependencies here. Okay, that if they're not listed here, you might get into a problem that it works locally, but it doesn't work when you deploy it to Heroku. Right? This is a very common issue. Right? And the first thing I'm going to answer you, check your package JSON file. Okay? If the question is, why is it working locally but not on Heroku? My standard answer is, check your package JSON file. Okay? You probably install a library locally in your machine, but you never registered it in your package JSON file. Right? Heroku uses this file, okay, so that when you deploy it on Heroku, it reads your package.json and says, ooh, you need all these libraries. All right, let me install them for you, right, and then it'll run. If you don't list it in package.json, Heroku won't know that you need a certain library. Yes? Okay, so yes, it works locally because you install the local libraries, but it won't run on Heroku. Okay. You start up the database. That's also an issue, right? Your server, when you run it, it'll be dependent on a database you're already running. Okay. So locally, you need to start the database before you run the server. Right? Otherwise, it'll complain saying wasn't able to connect to the database. Yes. Right. So make sure you start the database first, and then you start your server. Right, your server is this one, server.js, and then you can browse to localhost 3000. Server.js here is listening at port 3000. See that? Okay, this starts a little server that listens at port 3000, but here it says process env port. See that? That says that remotely, when this runs on Heroku, it'll be listening at whatever port Heroku wants to listen. Right, it's whatever environment variables the Heroku folks configured. Right, typically it'll be 80, port 80, right? Otherwise, locally, you won't have this configured locally, so this will be null. Right, this will be null. So this says this or that. So if this fails, it's 3000. So I'm listening at port 3000. Okay, so that's why over here it says localhost running locally on your machine, and you're hitting port 3000. That's a very common port number for JavaScript developers. Okay? Everybody good? All right. So let's keep going. Git clone. So this just walks you through cloning and installing locally. I suggest you put it in a directory, any U directory, or wherever you want to put it. I'm renaming it here to something else, webdev instead of webdev template. I go into that directory, I run npm install, and I'm ready to run Node.js. So let me just demonstrate for you. So where am I? So Angular and Annunziato. So I believe I have an NEU directory. We have, let's go into webdev. And let's go into 2017. And we have summer 1. Okay, there's nothing here in summer 1, right? So this is where you would be, right? So if we follow the instructions, git clone. So this is going to clone this. And notice I have a new directory, webdev template, right? I'm going to rename it webdev. Just webdev. So here's the content of my Git, and so I'm going to do an npm install. So npm install all by itself tells the Node package manager to look for package.json, right? And it's going to run it and deploy all the dependencies. So in particular, Express, body parser, and Mongoose, I believe. Okay. And it deploys everything in a local directory called node_modules. See that? Right. And it's smart. If those libraries depend on other libraries, right? It traverses all the dependency tree and downloads all the libraries that it needs for recursively that it installs them locally on node_modules. Yes. Node_modules. You should never actually deploy node_modules to GitHub. I do not want to see node_modules on GitHub. It's a huge directory, right? So if you go ls node modules, there's tons of stuff in there. Right? These are all libraries that are all available online. There's no need to copy this onto GitHub. Right? There's no need to copy this on Heroku. Right? Heroku will deploy its own things. Yes. So I guess I should put this somewhere. One of the things that you should create is a, where am I? One of the things you should create is a directory called git ignore. Git ignore, right? That's going to tell Git to ignore the following files or following directories. Yes? Okay. So if you open it, oh, already had one. Oh, am I giving you already one? Oh, never mind. There's already has a git ignore. Okay, so this file, right, tells Git to ignore anything under the node modules directory. Ignore the .idea. This is a file that your IDE will create under that directory. You don't want that either. That's IDE configuration files that you don't need, right, to put into the Git. Anyway, so I'm not going to do that. Never mind. I did that already. Good. Anyway, so now we're ready to actually run the server. Let's. I don't know if I have MongoDB already running. Let's see. Node server. All right, so it's not complaining. It didn't explode. So it probably means that the database is running. So locally, I should be able to just navigate to localhost 3000, and there it is. Okay. So this is the default website that you get. Right. At the end of the semester, this is the home page I refer to. The 5% that is in the grade. This is the home page I'm referring to. Right. This home page should look spectacular. Okay. The only requirement that I'm give you to please don't remove these links. Put them anywhere you want. Style them any which way you want, but just leave them for us, for the TAs and myself, just as a convenience, so that we can navigate to your project. Right now, there's nothing in your project. There's nothing in the assignments, but I would want them to be able to navigate to those from this homepage. Yes. Also, this allows us to test your database. We're going to be testing if your database is working. Right, we're going to add. Right, if we're able to insert a message and delete the message, that means your database is configured correctly. Right, so test it before you submit. All right. What else? So yeah, this is what's due on Sunday. Having this running on Heroku. Right, having this running on Heroku. And having this on GitHub. Okay? Let's see. So this goes a little more. Setting up GitHub. What else? Setting up Heroku. So this is a step-by-step steps on how to set up Heroku. You'll create an application. You'll call it whatever you want to call it. webdev summer 1 2017. It'll create a default application, right? You're gonna just blow that away anyway, right? Whatever it creates, you're just gonna blow it away. You're gonna link your Heroku with your Git repository. So whatever's in your Git repository is going to be deployed to Heroku. Yes? Okay. You're gonna install WebStorm, the IDE. You need to open up an account with WebStorm and use your NEU edu account, right? So that you'll be able to install it for free. Right? They'll send you a key so that you can register your IDE for free. Okay. Otherwise, you would need to pay. Right? And I think it gives you like 2 years. I think 1 year, and then it gives you an extension for another year to use it for free. Deliverables. So there'll be a Blackboard website along with this, and by Sunday, hopefully, it'll be up and running. The only thing you're going to submit on Sunday is the URL to your GitHub and the URL to your Heroku, where you have this running on Heroku. Yes, that's all I'm going to ask. Every assignment, I'm going to ask you to submit exactly the same thing: your GitHub repository and your Heroku URL. So it's only for our convenience, for the TA and myself, so that we can quickly jump to your Heroku, jump to your GitHub right from the assignment. Yes? So I'll make it easier on us to just go one by one and grade you. All right? You're not going to be submitting any actual code to Blackboard. Blackboard deliverable, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, submit your URL. GitHub deliverables. Okay, so sorry, this semester, I'm asking you to create a README file, right? Just like this. Do I have a README? Okay, there's a README, right? The README is what shows up here, right? It renders as if it were just HTML, okay? And it's this one right here. Yeah, I'm there. Okay, and I can edit it. Allows you to edit it right here. It's nice. And I'm asking you to please say something about yourself. You know, explain that this is for CS5610 that you take for this course. Create links to your where your Heroku is being hosted, right? So that we could go to your GitHub and just be able to navigate directly to your project. Links to your projects if you're using it, if you're deployed somewhere else. Make sure you have those links as well. Okay. Feel free to add more stuff. Create a homepage. For now, it's just the same information. Upload an image of yourself here on GitHub, just like I have here. And I was told that I cannot legally ask you to do that. So if you want, please upload an image of yourself. Or a cat. But yes, please provide a bio. You can provide a bio about yourself on GitHub. What else? Let's see. I think that's it. All right, let's leave it here. And let's take a short break, right?